Yeah, I'm going higher, yes I am. I am going higher today. Good morning. Welcome to Fix Your Finance. Today is Saturday, July 20th. We are rocking and continuing from where we were last week. We started on financial mistakes you need to avoid. I'm just going to, get my systems all rocking and going. Give me 2.2 seconds. And then we are good to fly. We are continuing from last week's topic. We started with money mistakes you can't afford to make. So, financial mistakes in general. And we are continuing on that same path today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Let somebody know, let everybody know that we are live. And, we will get right into it in a second. Okay. What's going on today? Oh, there we go. This is what happens when you're trying to go live and do your tech at the same time. Okay. Next. There we go. Perfect. Alrighty. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Fikayo. I am coming to you live on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram. I think I'm like, yeah, I'm live there. Perfect. We're continuing on what we talked about last week, which is financial mistakes to avoid. Last week we talked about, buy now, pay later. We talked about using credits as an emergency fund. We talked about borrowing for things that go down in value. We also talked about debt consolidation using your home. So if you missed that, make sure you go back, you watch it. We also had some really good questions. A good question from Femi all the way from Australia. So that was nice. Today we're going to continue on, and if you're new here, I go live every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. As usual, my goal is to help individuals and families take back control of their finances. I want to make sure that each and every one of you, each and every one of us, including myself, we have control over our money. You understand? Because we always teach here, if you don't control your finances, lack of it will control you. You understand? I want to make sure that you change your prayer points, okay? Because when you have your finances in order, a lot of your prayer points are just addressed. You understand? You know, taking it from there. So without further, you know, is it without okay. Why is this? Okay. I figured it out. Sorry. This is what happens when you're your tech person and whatever. Let's get right into it. Today we are picking up when we left off from last week. The very next thing we are talking about is payday lending. Yes, financial mistakes you want to avoid, money mistakes you don't want to make. This one takes the cake. You understand? You definitely want to make sure that you are not getting yourself into payday lending wherever possible. Okay. One of the biggest reasons why, again, payday lending, they are a temporary solution. And I understand, especially when there's financial pressure, you have things you have to do right away. It seems like a good way or a good route to go. However, if you've ever done it before, you know for sure just how daunting and just how, for lack of a better word, just straight up evil this thing is. Okay. One of the reasons I don't like it is because the interest rates that they charge are some, when you add all the fees, admin fees, other charges, God forbid if you are late, the interest rate can be upwards of 800%. Yes, go and Google it if you don't believe me. Yes, payday lenders are, whew, it's daylight. It's not even daylight robbery. It's daylight armed robbery. I don't even know if there's a worse word for that. Payday lending, avoid it at all costs. You're better off borrowing money from family and friends in some situations, you understand? Just because they will come after you, and they will gouge, oh, they will eat everything. That money, some of them will even say, oh, borrow $200 for as little as $20. Already you're paying so much in interest. Or, they'll now, if you God forbid you can't pay the money, they'll charge you so many interest fees, late charge, this charge, that it's just not worth it. Avoid payday lending at all costs. Okay. If you're joining us just now, like I mentioned, I go live every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern, and we are picking up from where we left off last week, talking about money mistakes that you should avoid or you should not be making. Okay. After payday lending, the other thing I don't like about it is it can become a never ending cycle. Okay, because what happens is you go, you borrow money today, your paycheck comes, you pay them, then you have to go back and borrow again because, well, your paycheck landed and you had to give them the money, so there's no money left over. Okay, so you definitely want to be careful about payday lending. And as always, we teach here at Fix It Finance, protect your income, protect your cash flow. You always have to protect it. So, for example, with payday lending, in the name it says payday, so you're borrowing money so that when you get paid, you can pay them back. Okay, so you've already tied up that cash flow, you've already promised it to somebody else, and we don't want to do that. We always teach here to protect your cash flow. Okay, so make sure you're staying away from payday lending wherever possible. Okay, the next thing is not budgeting or tracking your expenses. Now, I know some people don't like budgeting because they think it's restrictive and whatnot, and that's okay. But whatever you do, you must know the state of your flock. Whatever method you choose, budgeting, not budgeting, or tracking your expenses, not sure, but it is not one that we recommend. You can choose to be in denial and you can choose to bury your head in the sand and not pay attention to it, but that's not a strategy that we recommend. Okay, your budget and tracking your expenses will expose you to yourself, in all things. Like I always mention here, and just in general, it's one of my life's principles. It's not about being faultless, okay, but it's about being falseless. In other words, to thyself be true. Okay, nobody is perfect. Okay, nobody's budget is perfect. Nobody's going to stick to their budget 1,000% of the time. However, you have to know what's happening in your bank accounts, in not just in your bank accounts, in all your accounts. You have to know what your finances are saying. How you can't be making $6,000 and spending 7,000 and you say you don't know. Ignorance is not an excuse. You understand? You must know what's happening in your finances. You must. Let me say it again. You must know what's happening in your finances, okay? Because that's how you make decisions. That's how you plan for the future. That's how you plan for now. That's how you take care of your needs now. You understand? You shouldn't be getting caught off guard when your phone bill needs to get paid, okay? It shouldn't be a surprise to you every month that you have to pay utilities or that you have to pay rent. You have to get organized, okay? So budgeting, like I mentioned, tracking your expenses, it would expose you to yourself, okay? Because your bank account does not lie. It can't lie. You get, it cannot lie. Yes, there may be one or two mistakes that the bank makes, but if you are not paying attention, you won't even catch the mistake they make, okay? So you definitely want to make sure you're checking it out. Use apps, Excel, pen and paper. Just do it consistently, making sure you're keeping track and you know what's happening in your bank accounts, you know what's happening in all your accounts, keeping track of your expenses, you know what's happening, you know what's coming in, you know what's going out, you know why it is going out. Okay, sometimes you have bills in your account that you didn't even know you signed up for. That's not okay. You ought to be aware. Okay, the purpose is to gain insight, it's not to shame yourself. Okay, I know sometimes some people associate budgeting with shame and whatever. I don't know why. The purpose of it is to it's data. You understand? Just like we talk about data analytics, you should be doing your own data analytics for your life. Okay, and the data is in your bank account, in your credit cards, in your spending, in how you are tapping your card everywhere. You understand? So what you want to do is to use that to gain insight into what you are doing and what you could do better. Okay, or what you even need to start. In some situations you need to start some things, in some situations you need to stop some things. Okay, but if you're not paying attention, you would never know. Okay, look at the data and adjust accordingly. So like I mentioned, a budget is always flexible. Okay, it's you budget to your own lifestyle. Okay, you don't budget based on somebody else's lifestyle or somebody else's needs. Okay, so I'll leave that one for now. The next thing we're talking about is not carrying your spouse along financially. This one is a big one. Okay, you always want to carry your spouse along financially. And the reason why is no matter what type of family finance methodology you choose. Okay, for example, you combine accounts, you choose not to combine accounts, that's not what we're discussing here. But you must keep each other accountable. We talked about this a few weeks ago when we mentioned we did a whole series on how to manage your finances as a couple. Okay, you must keep each other accountable. Okay, accountable in the sense of whatever financial decisions the other person is making, it affects you whether you want it to or not. Okay, if your spouse is taking all their money and using it to gamble, it affects you. If your spouse is being irresponsible with their money, it affects you, whether you like it or not. It affects your future, it affects your children's future. Okay, so that's why you must carry each other along financially, whatever that looks like. Okay, you need to determine what that looks like for you and your family. If one person does the administration, so for example, in our household, I've mentioned it a lot of times, I'm the one that manages, the the administration of our accounts, administration of our finances in general. You understand? So I pay the bills, I do this, I do that. But my husband is very, very, very much aware of what's happening in our accounts. Okay, and the reason is because you want to make sure you're carrying each other along, because God forbid if anything were to happen to either one of us, the other person should be able to pick up right away and know what's happening. It shouldn't be a surprise. You see situations whereby, God forbid, one spouse gets injured or God forbid passes away, and the other spouse has no clue financially what's happening. This is why you need to make sure you are carrying each other along financially. The other person should not be in the dark completely. The other person should know how to access accounts, where each account is, their name should be on each account, again, depending on how you plan your finances. Okay, so the other partner must pay attention and ask questions. Okay, so for example, just because I do the administration and I pay the bills and I make sure whatever we need to buy gets bought, blah 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 blah, my husband also has every right to ask questions. Okay, the burden should not just be on me. We have a budget meeting every month. We talk about, okay, this is the plan for the month. I execute. If I'm not executing according to plan, he asks questions, and then I'm like, oh yes, this happened, that happened, I had to move this here, or I had to move that there. You understand? Or if, for example, something he needs comes up, then I'm like, okay, we need to move this, we need to move that. Okay, but we keep each other accountable. There's communication. Okay, so you must carry your spouse along financially. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I say this all the time when it comes to managing finances. If, for example, my husband does not pay attention and he just leaves me to manage everything, when temptation comes, you understand, when temptation arises and I decide I want to spend $500 on a Fendi or Gucci, whatever designer bag, I want to spend $5,000 on a vacation or whatnot and not tell him how much it costs, then what happens is, before you know it, I'll end up over, and before you know it, we'll look up and we didn't know how we got there. Okay, so you cannot leave the other person to carry the burden alone, to figure it out alone. And if you're the one that's primarily responsible for the administration, don't feel you have to figure it out all by yourself. If the thing is overwhelming, if it's getting out of hand, bring your spouse along, carry the person along. The burden should be on both of you, not just on one person. Okay, so make sure you carry each other along, which kind of leads us into our next point, or my next thing of finances that sorry, financial mistakes you definitely don't want to make. The next one is hiding finances from your spouse. What does this look like? Let me start by putting a caveat. I am talking about if you are in a functional marriage. Okay, if you're in a dysfunctional marriage, symptoms which include fighting all the time, insulting each other all the time, no respect, hitting below the belt, you know an abysmal sex life, seek marriage counseling. That's not who I'm referring to here. I'm talking about if you're in a functional marriage where the lines of communication are open, forgiveness is a daily occurrence, you guys are on the same page, quote unquote. Okay, hiding finances from your spouse is a big, big, big mistake. Okay, you have to be naked and unashamed with one another. Okay, the two of you are building together, so I don't know what you're hiding finances from each other for. Okay, so one of the ways you can prevent it is like the last point I talked about, which includes carrying each other along financially. Okay, for example, racking up debt. You as one spouse, you're racking up debt on one side, and your spouse on the other hand thinks you guys are all together good. Whatever money this, for example, let's say, for example, me and my husband, we hide finances from each other. He's busy doing investing here. I, on the other hand, I'm busy spending anyhow here. Okay, his investments make 100,000. I've made a debt of 100,000 on this side. You see that combined, it's not going anywhere. We are at zero still. You understand? So you definitely want to make sure you're carrying each other along. I don't understand this concept. Oh, for example, I'm building house in Nigeria and my husband does not know about it, or I'm buying I'm buying condos in Toronto and my spouse is not aware of it. Okay, you need to understand you're in a legally binding marriage. Okay, whether you like it or not, whatever decisions you are making financially affects the other person. Okay, unless by law you've written it down that it doesn't. If you don't have those kind of documentations in place, whatever decisions you're making financially affects the other person. So you might as well talk about it. Okay, you might as well be on the same page. You might as well make those decisions together. Okay, sending money home without your spouse's knowledge, you understand, things like that. That is it's again, maybe go back and watch the video where we talk where we spent a lot of time going into managing finances as husband and wife or as a couple. You understand, you want to make sure that you are not lacking in agreement and accountability. It increases risk of loss and infidelity. Okay, infidelity could be financial, it could be sexual, it could be other forms of infidelity. So when you lack accountability and you lack agreement when it comes to your finances, it increases your risk of loss. For example, if you're on the same page, somebody, for example, you know how we talked about somebody will come do a sales pitch on your dining table. For example, there's nobody that's going to come and do a sales pitch for me, you understand, that I will not discuss it with my husband. So no matter how hyped I am about it or how excited I am about the opportunity, we're going to talk about it together and we're going to determine if we're going to enter into this thing together. Okay, so one person cannot be bamboozled or taken advantage of. You understand? So that's what I mean by risk of loss. You get. So if someone, for example, you go to a car dealership, you get the sales pitch of your life, you can't sign that document without discussing with your spouse. It's just not done, because your risk of loss is increased and your chances of infidelity also increase when you don't have agreement and accountability concerning finances with your spouse. So make sure you don't hide finances from your spouse. Okay, and we talked about the previous point, carrying your spouse along financially. Okay, the next mistake you don't want to make is not giving every dollar a job. Every single dollar that comes into your household must be consider them your servants. And that's not every cent that enters your house is your servant. You must give it a job. Okay. The story of the talent is one of the things I like. The ruler was leaving and he gave one 60, he gave one 40, he gave one 10. I'm paraphrasing here. Okay. And the first one said, okay, I've turned your 6 has gained 6 more. This one, your 4 has gained 4 more. You understand? They put the talent to work right away. Okay. The one that did not was the one that was judged, and that was the one that was, not given an award, quote unquote. Okay. You definitely want to make sure you're giving every dollar a job. Every dollar coming in must have a job. Every dollar kept must be deployed to earn more. Okay. So every dollar that comes in must have a job. Let's say you are a family, you make 5,000 a month. Your bills are 4,000 a month. There's $1,000 in free cash flow left over. Each of those dollars must be working. So the 4,000 already has its own jobs. Paying off the mortgage, paying off debt, paying bills, buying groceries. That's the job. The remaining 1,000, you must deploy it to be working. Okay. Part of its work could be being an emergency fund sitting in a high interest savings account. No problem. That's its job. You understand? Part of its job could be being an investment, going out to make even more money for you. Okay. But every single dollar must have a job. No dollar should be sitting idle. You understand? No dollar should be idle in your hands. They should all be working. You are working, so your money too should be working. Okay. Nobody is getting free breakfast. I'm gonna say though, make sure your dollars are working and they are working hard. Okay. The next financial mistake you don't want to make, and I have this with an exclamation point, co-signing of any kind. Yes. Let me repeat it for those in the back. Co-signing, co-signature, co-signing of any kind. Please and please and please avoid it. Okay. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Okay. Don't do it. You're gonna lose your shirt. You're gonna lose your bed. You understand? Even the Bible talks about anybody that signs a surety for a stranger, his very bed will be taken from under him. Okay. You need to understand. For someone that needs a co-signer, the bank that whose job is to loan people money. That's their job. Oh. That's all they like to do. They like loaning people money. But even they have said this person is not worth this loan. And when we say worth, not as per their worth as a person, but just the risk. That's a better word. This person loaning them money is too risky, because the chances of us getting our money back is like high. Sorry, is low. The chances of us getting our money back is very low. So if we give this person money, we may not get it back. Okay, now your own job is to protect your own cash flow. You now go and you say, okay, sure, for this person I will sign and I will give them, whatever they need to be able to. No, don't do it. Okay, because what's going to happen is, God forbid, 9 out of 10 times, if this person is irresponsible, you are going to have to be the one that's going to have to take care of that bill. It's going to affect your credit score. It's going to affect your financial standing in general. So you definitely don't want to do it. Okay, like I mentioned, the bank has determined this person is high risk. Okay, why are you now using your head to catch the risk? I don't understand. So please don't co-sign for anybody. Okay, let them figure it out. You understand? Especially for things, don't get me wrong. I get it if you're going to co-sign because, okay, someone needs a place to rent. They have a well-paying job. They are organized financially, but the person doesn't want to rent to them because, say for example, they are new in Canada, so they don't have enough credit history or enough history just in general for the landlord to be able to trust them. Okay, and the landlord is like, okay, I want somebody that's here, that knows them, to be able to say, okay, I can vouch for this person. That's a different scenario. Somebody wants to buy a car, you understand, a car on debt. They're not paying cash. They want to finance the car. The bank, the financier is saying, unfortunately, you are too risky. Bring somebody else to sign. You too, you're not gonna sign for the person to sign. And for example, sometimes the person may not even have a job or doesn't have a stable job or whatnot. So, in my opinion, if the bank is saying they don't want to sign for this person, why do you then think it's okay for you to sign for the person? Of course, on a case by case basis, I just give 2 examples. On the one hand, that's okay. On the other hand, definitely don't do it, because if this person misses a car payment, guess who they are coming after for that car payment? You. Okay, it will end bad. I mean, if I ask, just even on this platform and in general, if I were to do a survey of all the people that have co-signed for someone and nothing happened, very, 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 I could be wrong, and I've not done this data, but I can tell you for sure it's not pretty. I know for sure I've been burned. Okay, so you definitely want to make sure you are keeping track and not falling victim. Okay, the next thing is a financial mistake you want to avoid is opening multiple credit accounts. And I know you might see some people online that tell you to do this for the sake of financial strategy and blah 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 blah. And that's okay. Like I mentioned here at Fix It Finance, we discuss a whole bunch of strategies with you, and at the end of the day, you have to choose what's best for your family. Here are a few reasons why I personally believe in simplifying your finances rather than overcomplicating it with too many accounts. Okay, especially when you're just starting out. Once you become a guru, expert, pro, sure, you can do whatever you want, because at that time you have the capacity, the mental capacity, the mental know-how, the intellectual know-how, the experience know-how to be able to handle some of these things. Okay, if you don't have it and you have 20 credit card accounts, the stress of that alone is enough to land some people on high blood pressure medication. Okay, one of the reasons I encourage people, to not open multiple credit accounts or credit facilities and whatnot is, one, it's the overstimulation in your senses. It affects your peace. You cannot tell me you're not struggling with your peace when you have 20 different credit cards and you're trying to chase. They have different due dates, they have different point systems and how you can make, earn points. They have different banks that you have to pay it to. It robs you of your peace and just gives you unnecessary stress. Okay, simplify your life. Why do you need 10 bank accounts? Okay, don't get me wrong, I get it if each account, okay, has a job or has a purpose. Okay, you understand? So for example, you have an account for saving for travel, have an account for saving for this, have an account for saving for that. If that's how you choose to operate, by all means do you. But if you're not quite there yet, you're still in the beginning stages of getting your finances in order, you're still in the beginning stages of fixing your finances, you want to be as simple as possible. Keep track of one bank account. Let all the money go in there. Let all the money come out of there. Okay. Have one credit card or one or none. For example, when we were going through our journey of paying off, we had 0 credit cards, 0 lines of credits, because as we were paying it off, We will call the bank. Let's say we paid $1,000 today. We'll tell them, please reduce the limit by 1,000. Okay. That way we didn't get access to that money again. And it kept it simple for us. We couldn't go back into debt because there's no debt to go back into. And as soon as we paid them off, we closed all the accounts. Did it affect our credit scores? Yes, but it was only temporary. Like I mentioned, my credit score right now is over 800. And I have one credit card. Okay. So, and I don't touch them. You understand? But my point is, until you get to that point, where your capacity can handle some of those things, again, once you have your finances on an organized, cyclical system whereby it doesn't take much effort or much think space, you can then begin to expand into, okay, several different accounts for several different reasons. Okay. You definitely don't want to have too many credit accounts going. Like I mentioned, it overstimulates your senses, it affects your peace, it encourages overspending. When you have 20 different credit cards, you can't tell me you're not tempted to overspend every single month or every single day. Because what will happen is, let's say you don't have money on your American Express and you're hungry, you don't really want to eat what's in your house. There's $500 on your TD visa. Guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna order food. It's just gonna happen. You understand? Or you need something for the kids, you go to Walmart because there's money on the credit card. Oh, there's no money on this one, but there's money on this one. You will spend it. You understand? But if you do not have it to spend, guess what? You would not spend it. Okay. So it encourages overspending, which is one of the reasons I encourage you all to not have too many like having multiple credit accounts open. Okay. Because like I mentioned, what will happen is you just put it here on this credit card or on that line of credit because you have the money there. Okay. The administrative overload is a lot. You understand? In addition to all other areas of your life, you understand, you need strength when it comes to your finances. So if your strength financially is being sucked away by managing all these credit accounts, you need to simplify. Okay. It increases your risk of late fees, NSF fees, and all these other fees. You understand? Because, for example, you mistakenly pay your TD Visa instead of your TD Mastercard, or you mistakenly pay the BMO one instead of. You understand? When you have 20 different credit cards open, your risk, you understand, of running into late fees, what's that thing? The cash advance fees and all these other fees that they charge is very high. Okay. Always get, the point here I have is they always get you with one deal or the other. You understand? That's how they get you. So be mindful of it. You go to Walmart today, they tell you, oh, can we encourage you with our Walmart Mastercard? Blah 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 blah. You're gonna get 20% off today. And because of 20% off today, you end up signing off yourself for 4 years of paying unnecessary interest and fees. Okay. Because it's not until 4 years you realize this card is a waste of my time. You understand? So you definitely want to make sure you're not getting sucked into all these deals. You go to the bay, oh, they want to encourage you to get credit card. You go to even Rogers now is offering me credit card. I don't understand how when I log into my FIDO account, Rogers is there. You are pre-approved for. I'm like, Rogers, why would I? Anyways, but yes, that's what I'm trying to say. You definitely don't want to get sucked into all their various deals. Paying all these fees, it's from these fees that they're able to, pay for the experiences of others that are enjoying the experiences. That's not why we're here today, but something to consider. Okay, I think I'm going to end it there just because of our time, and we will pick up again next week for part 3, and that's where we'll end it. I think that's where we're going to end it. So last week we talked about buy now, pay later. We talked about using credit as an emergency fund, so don't do that. We talked about borrowing for things that go down in value. We talked about debt consolidation using your home, and then today we talked about payday lending, not budgeting or tracking your expenses, carrying your spouse along financially, hiding finances from your spouse, not giving every dollar a job, co-signing of any kind, and of course, opening multiple credit accounts. So these are all the things you definitely do not want to be doing if you are on your journey or your personal finance journey to fixing your finances. So join us again next week. My I go live every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern, and I will see you next week. I see a comment here on Instagram that says Good afternoon, and thank you for sharing these mistakes. Yes, you're welcome. Thank you so much. Mikamu74. Yes. Thank you all for joining. Have a wonderful weekend. We will see you next week.